By now, most of us know we will not escape this world alive. People spend a lot of time making lasting relationships and finding love. One of the more notable examples of this is The Great Gatsby, which ties in love, greed, religion, and death. We have interviewed some professors in the English department on their outlook of The Great Gatsby and have included a survey of university students across the campus.
It is described by Callahan that Fitzgerald uses situations from his life to explore the American dream. By doing this, he found that the American dream was very contradicting in many areas. Gatsby, who represents Fitzgerald himself, shows that wealth does not always get you what you want. It proves how no matter how hard you try to plan out your life, it does not necessarily work out the way you want it to in the end. The American dream is made up of equality and hard work to achieve success, but it does not end up that way for some people no matter how hard they try. Fitzgerald proves how the American dream is not all that it is said to be, just by looking back at his own life and applying it to the situation.
Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby is a comprehensive article centered on Tom and Daisy's marriage and their ups and downs. Throughout the story, Gatsby goes to great lengths to reclaim Daisy's love and affection, and to also have her admit to Tom his love was unrequited. It seems he is successful because we see how miserable Daisy and Tom are and how extraordinary Gatsby's efforts are. As the story continues, we see how perfect Tom and Daisy are for each other because of how corrupt they are. In the first chapter, while at a small dinner party at Tom and Daisy's house, she publicly blames Tom for a bruise on her knuckle. She goes on to call him a brute and hulking and belittles all his ideas. When Tom gets a phone call, undoubtedly from his mistress Myrtle, she abruptly leaves to bring him back and complains to Nick about her marriage and life. Fitzgerald clearly shows us just how unhappy they are together. Nick saw right through her words. The next instance happened at one of Gatsby's wild parties. Daisy spent all her time dancing and talking with Gatsby while Tom pursued a woman he had just met. Because of their behavior, some might think Tom and Daisy were conspiring together. Daisy allowed Tom to believe Gatsby was driving when Myrtle was killed. When Myrtle's husband encountered Tom, ready to seriously hurt him, Tom directed him to Gatsby's house. We see how Tom and Daisy are highly corrupt in the end when their marriage survives, but Gatsby is killed by Myrtle's husband, who committed suicide immediately afterwards, for what Daisy did and for being Myrtle's lover, who was actually Tom.
Okay, how would you describe Tom and Daisy's marriage?
It's terrible. It's just baseless. It seems we don't know enough about the characters really to know why they're in love with each other, but they're awfully superficial and shallow. Tom is probably the worst character in American literature. He's not likable in any kind of way. We can't understand why Daisy would like him for that reason either. But on the other hand, Daisy isn't really that likable a character either. That's one of the problems with this novel, I guess, if it's a problem, is that most of these characters are not likable.
Right.
But we really don't understand why they're together. We don't get enough backstory to see that they love each other. I mean, Daisy does tell Gatsby that she can't say that she never loved Tom, and so she stays loyal to Tom in some way, but Tom is continuously backstabbing her and everyone else in his life So they're certainly not an example of a loving couple.
Okay. What about Daisy and Gatsby's relationship?
I feel kind of similar about Daisy and Gatsby. Gatsby, I think, is a more admirable character than Tom, for sure, at least because at least his ambition has a goal behind it. Tom seems to be only living in the past, on his past accomplishments. There's a line somewhere in the book that says that he's his glory days are when he was 21 years old, and nothing to him will ever be the same again. He'll never be as glorious again. Of course, he doesn't have to be because he's rich, so he doesn't have to do anything. At least Gatsby is motivated by something, and that's to get back together with Daisy. So we can see at least his motivations in some sense, and we see a lot of characters in American literature who are obsessed with one thing. His obsession is Daisy, but to live his life the way he did, focusing all of his energy on Daisy, I suppose makes us wish that they could be together more than she and Tom. I mean, he builds this elaborate mansion. He makes all this money. He holds these grand parties. He's the only one who doesn't drink at these parties. He tells Nick that he never even goes in his swimming pool. He just has it for show because he's trying to impress Daisy. I mean, that's shallow too. It's representative of the time Fitzgerald's writing about, but at least he seems to love Daisy in a way that I can't see Tom loving her.
Right. So do you think that Daisy and Gatsby should have ended up together?
I suppose if our choice is between Tom and Gatsby, I guess so. But that's sort of the point of the novel, is that that things don't work out for these people even. I mean, we strive to be them as a culture, it seems. We want to be wealthy and carefree. And that's how Tom is described in the very end. The last time Nick sees Tom, he's described as being carefree. So we strive to be as financially secure as possible so that we don't have to have cares in the world. But even these characters end up being totally unlikable, all of them. And they're carefree. They're all rich enough to where they don't have to worry about anything. So none of them are really happy. I don't get the sense that if Daisy and Gatsby were together, they'd be all that happy either.
Okay.
This article dives deeply into the social aspects of The Great Gatsby. Contrary to the previously summarized articles thus far, the author spends little time discussing the romance between Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan, writing only this short statement. We never see a romantic exchange between Daisy and Gatsby. The closest thing we come to an intimate scene is when Gatsby shows Daisy his shirts, commodities that represent his wealth, power, and privilege. Instead, the author focuses on the social aspects of this book and how to best attain the American dream. Basically, the way it is described in the article is to not only have the drive and determination to do whatever it takes to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, so to speak, but to also have certain social relationships with people who have or are living in wealth. Although homosexuality is briefly mentioned between men in the article, the message was clear in that if one wants to succeed in attaining the American dream, connections must accompany effort. The article ends with a very powerful statement about the two major role-playing characters in the novel, Nick Carraway and Jay Gatsby. Gatsby represents the youthful idealist in Fitzgerald, someone who can maintain faith in the American dream in spite of everything that called such faith into question. Nick, on the other hand, is the cold, calculating pragmatist who is capable of sacrificing anything, including himself, in order to achieve that dream.
The article brings up some very interesting points about the comparison of Gatsby to Jesus Christ and his crucifixion. The article states that on the last day of Gatsby's life, he carries an air mattress on his back to the pool where he will soon die. This is very similar to Jesus' death because he had to carry his own cross to Calvary. Gatsby's chauffeur asked if he would like any help carrying the air mattress, much like Simon of Cyrene, who ended up carrying Jesus' cross for a little ways. Once Gatsby is shot in the pool and he is on the air mattress, his blood mixes with the pool water. This is just like when Jesus was stabbed in his side and his blood and water mixed. Both of the men have vigils the night before their deaths. Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane and Gatsby's is in the Buchanan's garden. Both are left alone by their friends who are too tired and go to sleep. This article brought up some very interesting comparisons of the life of Christ and Gatsby.